Hello, my name is John McCann, and I worked for many years at Polaroid. I actually started when I was a freshman in college, and I had the opportunity to work closely with Edwin Land for the next 25 years. He set out the goal of teaching cameras how to calculate appearance and write the appearance on the film instead of reproducing the light. The problem of reproducing the light turns out to be very difficult in something like a print. The print has a very restricted dynamic range. In fact, surface reflection kicks in at about 3% of the maximum. So you can't reproduce a scene like the scene behind me with sun and shadow and trees and reflections from the pond with a range of 30 to 1. You need something with a much greater physical range. The fundamental proposition here is that two different fields, one called color constancy, and which is really about psychology in the past century, and high dynamic range, which is a reproduction technology done in digital cameras, turn out to be very much the same thing. Gray worlds are a favorite topic of people who study color vision and also who work on camera firmware. Usually it's discussed as a theoretical concept that if all the objects in the field of view average to a gray, then you might be able to use that information in your calculations. This turns out to be an actual gray world. At least all of the wooden blocks are painted with the same reflectance paint. And one of the important observations is that despite the fact that they are the same physical reflectance, they have subtly different appearances. Here we have a set of paints that are painted on a piece of paper, and they're viewed in uniform illumination. There's 11 paints, 6 colored and 5 achromatic grays. Those 11 paints are on the surfaces of all of these blocks. But here we've replaced the uniform illumination with complex natural light. And so if you look at the red area here, 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 and there, they are all exactly the same reflectance. They are all the same paint, but they have subtly different appearances because of the interaction of the reflectance of the surface, the illumination, and the processes in the human eye. And so the challenge associated with HDR image processing is to apply to cameras the processes we observe in human vision. And in vision we usually call them color constancy, but in photography we describe the same problem as HDR imaging. These two areas of color constancy and HDR imaging have sort of different histories. One is old, and one really came from a time when all of imaging was regarded as what happened in a single pixel, a little subsection of the image. And a lot of that comes from the history of photography, because a photographic film will have the same response here as here as here. A pixel in a photographic film is a group of crystals that capture photons, and depending upon the quanta catch, deposit a certain amount of pigment or dye or silver halide, silver metal. And if you know what happens at a pixel, you know what happens at every pixel in the field of view. Land realized that if he could understand vision, he could teach cameras to behave the way that human vision did. At that point in his life, he had probably more than 100 patents on making photographic images. In his lifetime, he had something like 350 patents. But he realized that the photographic properties that he knew how to manipulate and use and manufacture were entirely different than what he saw in human vision.